Today we're going to look at what's known as transvestigations. In case you don't know what these are, it's basically a conspiracy where you think that a bunch of celebrities or other public figures are secretly trans. It mostly targets women, but you do get the occasional trans guy conspiracy. Let's go ahead and take a look at whatever this is. Be warned, it is mind-boggling just how weird this gets.
Put it in a piece.
The trans business across Europe is astonishing.
Well, that's one way to start a video, I guess.
I had a paper some months back where I looked at some of the royal families of Europe going back over the last 100 years.
Yes. Yes.
And you can, they jump out at you. The male qualities, they are actually comical.
Are you going to bother explaining what those comical male qualities are? Spoiler alert, it's mostly just women with short hair or who are old.
I mean, isn't that, but it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the royal families of Europe are full of, basically trans people, transsexual. I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing, right?
Define mind-blowing.
Really?
It is. Now, you could imagine that would have been feasible in the old days, before the use of photographs and video and all of that, where the people wouldn't get to see them very often, and when they did, they wouldn't get much chance to study them.
Yeah.
Source. Just trust me, please.
Yeah.
And when the camera became available and video and film footage became available, we had a brief window where we could see them in the raw, if you like. But in the last 20, 30, 40 years, they appear to have greatly improved the quality so that they're much more convincing transgenders now.
Yeah.
And of course, they carry out more surgery on them now. I would recommend, if you're interested, to go out and check some of the junior members of the British royal family.
I'd rather not.
Oh, yeah.
The ones who are around 5, 6, 7, 8. They are just like little boys,
Yeah.
But by the time they're 13, 14, 15, between the chemicals and the hormones, the surgery and so on, they will be more convincing females than they are.
Wait, so they're all biologically male? How does that work for a royal family?
Yeah.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a strange thing to do. For just normal people like us, we just think, why would anybody want to change their gender?
I don't know why, but I find the phrase trans your gender really funny.
Or pull out, try to do this deception. Yeah. And now, do you think it's something they have to do to please their gods, right?
To please their gods.
Their master.
I think it is. I think it's part of this cult, club, society. Mrs. Thatcher made a famous remark years back. She was one.
I tried looking up who Mrs. Thatcher was, and I got a McDonald's commercial.
And she spoke about a certain person who was getting above a station, and she was saying, he is not one of us.
Mm.
And, at the time you would tend to think, well, they're speaking only of the power elite. But now that we have a different coloration on that now, because we see it could possibly mean that he wasn't a member of this club.
The secretly trans club?
One of us, yeah.
One of us.
So they're in some club.
And I think the Mitfords used to have a term, you and non-you.
Ah.
The you being us, and of course the non-you being the rabble.
Which proves something.
And if you're one of us, then of course there must be some physical evidence that you have joined this club. Now, I don't think all of the males have to do it, or even all of the females, but it is quite obvious, the more I study this, these people hate natural women.
What exactly are you studying?
Yeah.
They hate natural childbirth. They hate
Yes.
natural marriage. They hate natural families.
Yes. Is that their
And
hatred of
they-
humanity in general, or what is
Well,
that all
it
about?
seems to be whether Satan hates women more than men, and this is carried through, or whether it's part of a general strategy that they are following to wipe out the family.
Yeah.
Okay, so by getting a bunch of celebrities to secretly be trans, completely secretly, nobody knows they're doing it, and they don't try to get other people to be trans because they're doing it in secret, and it doesn't, I guess, really directly affect anyone. This will somehow destroy the family.
Separate sex and marriage.
It's supposedly a Horus Eye pendant, but it's really hard to tell because this video is only 720p max. But from here, it looks more like it might be an Ankh or just a regular cross. And even if it is an Eye of Horus, it doesn't confirm an evil conspiracy. The Eye of Horus is an ancient Egyptian symbol that represents things like health and protection from disease. It's not an evil demonic thing. I'm also pretty sure that's just how some people fold their hands.
Separate the rearing of children from their parents so that the state raises and brainwashes the child.
And the secret trans celebrities planned on accomplishing this how?
And where generation takes place without the uterus, because the striking feature of an androgyne is the thing you can't see. They don't have a uterus.
Great point.
You know,
but they always pretend like they do.
Pardon?
The fake pregnant bellies. They have fake pregnant bellies.
Yeah, the fake pregnancy. But this is what they all have in common. The men who are men don't have a uterus, and the women who who are actually men don't.
Yes.
So you see, that's me, which the Lord brought Christ into the world and caused it to be interesting. And also Satan in the garden, he went for the woman because he was weak and he was deceiver. Of course, he says Satan didn't deceive Adam.
Okay.
Adam rebelled. You see, Adam is amazingly beautiful partner. Most beautiful woman who ever lived.
Yeah.
Satan didn't really legalize the same stuff, but he went along with it because he was the one. You know? And this seems to be all part of it. Satan is attacking women. The attack on women today is staggering.
Yeah.
And you see how they're suffering by trying to lose weight, anorexia and bulimia and all kinds of neurotic practices and exercising to death simply to look like one of these strange transgender gargoyles. I mean,
of all the awful takes I was expecting to hear today, trans people cause eating disorders was not one of them. But God, that is terrible.
Yeah, and not wanting to get pregnant, to get fat and stuff.
And not wanting to get pregnant.
I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there are still very many women who are absolutely choosing to get pregnant. It's just that a lot of people don't want it to come out of nowhere, and they want to make sure they're in a situation where pregnancy isn't going to be terrible.
Wanting to have babies, abortion.
That's abortion. The murder of children. Is anything more pleasing to Satan than to have a mother kill her own child?
Wow.
It's just astounding.
Wow.
Now here's a transvestigation. It's got random lines and shapes that don't actually mean anything, but supposedly prove transness. And is it accusing children of being male because they don't have wide hips? Are you expecting every child to have the same body as an adult supermodel? That's the thing. They just have this one very specific idea of what a biological woman has to look like, and then anything that deviates from that is obviously secretly trans or something. It's meaning that they're almost always targeting cis women, and in this case, children. There's one of Princess Diana with monster truck in the corner. I don't get why the monster truck's there. Apparently she's male because it just a space. How she's like, does she take too big of steps to be a woman? In this picture, I guess they think she runs weird. So she's secretly trans because she also won a race. I also don't get this one. Not that any of these make sense. It really, I don't get any of them. None of them make sense. A lot of these are just like pointing at a random like body part and saying male blank. Another one that this account in particular seems to like to point at is what they refer to as a wonky eye, which is something that it like is apparently like a sign that you're in this secret trans cult club or whatever it is. Mandy Moore has a penis, as proven by this one single photo that could definitely not just be the way her pants are folded there, because fabric doesn't do that ever. Okay, so this one helps explain the Princess Diana one with the space. Margaret Thatcher was apparently one of them. So Q angle, this is something I've never heard of before, but is the most reliable method for determining the biogender of a skeleton. Simple but effective marker. So basically, if there's space between your legs, and you know it's accurate because the picture they used is of a nutcracker, cartoon character, and women, they have no space between their legs. So therefore, Margaret Thatcher was male. Okay. I found this next one from what appears to be a flat earth account.
Hey guys, today we're going to look at Madonna.
Okay, I'm looking.
I believe that this is an Illuminati. Show you some reasons why I believe so. There is a female on the left and a male on the right. Female.
Congratulations. You can use Google Images and you can put text onto them.
Have wider hips, and the most narrow part of the waist occurs above the belly button. Men still have hips, but they come to an end below the belly button, well below, in fact. And there's an indent on the sides that a woman just does not have.
Every single female has the same exact body type as every other female, and this chart is completely accurate to all of them.
Again, you can see the difference between the male and female hips. Women have wider hips. The skeletal structure of a man and women are different. You see the one in the middle on top is a female pelvis. Below that's a male pelvis.
Except this method of determining sex is used for skeletons in fields such as anthropology or forensics. It doesn't really work as well with living human beings. It gets much more complicated.
The female pelvis allows for childbirth, while the male pelvis does not. Again, the skeletal structure of a female and a male. Females have wider hips. You can see there a young Madonna with a male pelvis.
That's just called being petite.
Young Madonna with a male pelvis and male hips, straight up and down. She's trying to bend and curve her body to deceive us. There it is again. You see, she does not have the wide hips of a female.
Actually, you can see that her hips got wider and more curvy. This is probably because she stopped being a teenager, and that's just kind of how aging works.
I'm not saying all women have to have a perfect hourglass figure. I'm just saying all genetically born females should have childbearing hips. They should not have male hips. There she is again. See, she's curving the back to give the appearance. You can see the hips end below the belly button. And see her shoulders are quite wide.
They really aren't that wide, but okay.
Narrow hips. She's curving her back, and her fake breasts give her the appearance of being a female. See, the hips actually end below the belly button there.
I'm starting to think this quote-unquote investigation might have just been an excuse to look at half-naked Madonna pictures.
She's trying to deceive us by curving around. You can see that there she does not have the female curves.
Of course she wouldn't have, quote, female curves in this picture. She was still a schoolgirl.
Shoulders, while not extremely wide per se, are indeed wider than the hips. Especially on a white girl, that's a very uncommon trait. See the shoulders again. You can see the straight up and down torso, the waist. Those hips should be wider, and they should be curving in above the belly button.
Once again, there's no single specific female body type. Women's bodies vary, even for biological females. It's just because it doesn't look like this one specific example that you're saying is the female body type doesn't mean they're all secretly transgender.
That is a straight up and down torso of a man. There it is again. You can see even the male indent below the belly button on the sides, where the hips on a man, like myself.
I think much of this investigation was done completely one-handed.
And if you're a man, you're going to have this little indent thing. You may not have even noticed it before. A bit of a love handle thing, that's what men have as well, but that's a male feature. There it is again. You can see it even more clearly there. The hips and the torso and the waist of a man. All right, now we're going to look at the hands and the fingers especially.
And we've devolved into palmistry.
Actually, it's called a 2D 4D ratio. We're going to look at the length of the index finger, the pointer finger, compared to the ring finger. Okay, so on the left, males tend to have a longer ring finger.
Okay, so male index fingers do tend to be shorter than the ring finger, while female index fingers tend to be the same length or longer than the ring finger. However, this is not 100%, and it does not mean that you can completely determine someone's sex from the shape of their hand. Nor can you create a completely certain conclusion about someone's health from their hand shape.
Due to the higher amounts of testosterone. It's color-coded there. Don't worry too much about that. Some people are more in the middle like that, and females tend to have a longer pointer finger.
Exactly. They tend to. This does not mean they always do.
Index finger. Men on the left with the long ring finger, longer than the index finger, vice versa on the female. Their index finger is longer than the ring finger. You can see clearly right there. Now there's some exceptions, and some people are about the same. And you do have to measure carefully at times. It can look different depending on the angle of the hand. But that looks to be right there. A pretty straight shot of the hand of Madonna. Clearly has the hand of a man.
But didn't you just say...
Now there's some exceptions.
How could you possibly be so certain that these are, quote, man hands?
Somebody with a lot of testosterone, long ring finger, longer than the index finger. Again, right there. You think they'd be able to change that surgically, and they would be, but it would be a bit difficult. They don't seem to do a lot of surgery. They maybe do some photoshopping, and some people even try to avoid photographs of their hand completely to hide that. Remember, this is all about deception. Now, let's look at the muscles. Madonna is a muscular person, relatively, especially for a woman. Male muscles have more fibers, resulting in total greater muscle mass, whereas females, they'll have muscles, but they won't have the overall mass. Madonna appears to have the muscles of a man.
No, she has the muscles of a woman who works out.
Now, I don't know what else she's doing to get these weird veins and things like that.
I'm guessing working out and aging.
And look at her legs as well. You know, she does not have the cellulite of a woman. She doesn't have kind of fatty legs like most women have. She doesn't have any body fat at all. In fact, it looks to me. Most women have a higher percentage of body fat. Even if they're in, good shape, they're thin, they're in good shape, they exercise, they will still have higher percentage of body fat than a man. You see there the muscles, the wide shoulders. I don't know too many real women.
You've made that very obvious. Okay, yes, I know it's low-hanging fruit, but come on. I just had to.
That look like that. In fact, I don't know any women that look like that, really. Now, again, look at the shoulders.
That's not even an anatomical diagram or anything. That is not a source to use for any sort of biological claim.
Head lengths. 3 head widths on the shoulders of a man. Roughly, okay? There's always going to be exceptions, but this is just a general rule. Females, about 2.5 or so, 2.5. Women have a smaller rib cage. Their collarbones are also shorter, so they don't have the broad, square shoulders men have. Okay, so there's another trait to look for. Ask yourself, are those wide shoulders or narrow shoulders? Are the shoulders wider than the hips? When transgendered people wear clothes, they can often use padding and other means of deception to appear to have female hips. That's why I showed you at the beginning of the video her actual hips.
You mean from when she was younger and less, developed and would have had smaller hips? Because that's sort of just how getting older works.
Without the padding. There you can see the muscles again. And the hands look rather large in general. There's the wide shoulders and the muscles once again. And we're going to also look at the skull.
Oh God, not the skulls. Anything but the skulls.
In fact, these two people right here have very similar skulls. That probably is a real man. There's the skull.
Okay, I have to play that one more time.
There's the skull. Male on the left. Wider. Bigger. Female. Smaller. More narrow. Look at the jaw especially. Rounded jaw, oval-shaped jaw on the female. Male, more square in general. Okay? And you can see men have a brow ridge. More prominent brow ridge above the eyes. There's kind of a bump type of deal. So you can see this person here has the face of a woman, but yet I believe there's an underlying skull of a man. So there's makeup, but look at the hairy arms.
Everyone's arms grow hair naturally, including women's.
Look at the large hands compared to the face. So I believe Madonna has had surgery done on the face, on the nose especially. Women tend to have smaller noses than men due to the smaller skull. But still, there's the underlying shape of a square masculine jaw. In my daily life, I never confuse a real woman with being gay. Okay, it just doesn't happen.
For some reason, I highly doubt that.
You can tell, right? When you meet somebody for the first time, do you need to prove their gender? Do you need to analyze it? Do you need to transvestigate everyone you meet? No, you just know if it's a man or a woman, right? And this thing just doesn't seem like a woman to me, all right? You can see the brow ridge there. They try to cover it up with makeup. Now she's done something strange to her teeth. Now here's the Illuminati aspect of it. There she is mimicking the Baphomet.
That doesn't prove she's male.
Baphomet is basically one of the deities that the Freemasons worship. The Freemasons worship the gods of Egypt,
Except Baphomet's not an Egyptian god.
who are basically the fallen angels. See the pentagram on top. You see that the Baphomet has boobs. It's a man with boobs. All right. There she. The all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid. She is not a secular artist. She is a religious artist. What's her religion?
Cold hard cash. I had to make the joke eventually, I'm sorry.
Freemasonry. What's that? Worshipping Satan and the fallen angels to establish their kingdom on earth.
In the material world, you mean? Okay, I'm sorry. I promise that's the last one.
How many symbols can you do in one photo? Quite a few, it seems. This is all secret. She's an Illuminati, a demonically possessed transgendered entity.
Madonna has breached containment. I repeat, Madonna has breached containment.